Hello, everybody. Welcome to Furuya Uncorked. Joining us this week is the Gram Sam Ariana Suchia and our very special guest, Michael Pang.
Pang, Mr. Pang.
Pang, pang, pang.
What's a Gram Sam?
Ask her.
That's me. Just because I'm like the new kid on the block, so they call little newbie surfers Groms. So I'm the Gram Sam. Yeah.
I heard that on the show, but I never knew what it was.
And Kali's the lone Sam. And then I'm the hand Sam.
The second one was bad. The first one, 8.5.
You can tell Chuck made the nicknames.
Yeah. And so, Ariana, so we're here. You know, Michael is a person that got into wine out of pure enjoyment. You know, he was drinking other things before, and then, you know, he started taking a liking to wine. When I first met him, he was drinking California Cabernet Sauvignon, specifically Napa Valley. And then he segued, and I watched him over the years, you know, move, and now he's more into Bordeaux, and now especially Burgundy and Champagne. But recently, over the past few years, he's also traveled to some far-out wine places with Cheryl and I.
Very cool.
So I thought it'd be really interesting to get a perspective of someone who started off slowly with wine and then getting into the more Napa Valley, California wines, and then now segueing into Bordeaux, Burgundy, and Champagne, and Sauternes, by the way.
And Sauternes.
You know, and Mr. Sauternes here. And then now, you know, experiencing some of these wines, and I would like to hear his perspective on some of the stops that we made along our trek.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's kind of like the format, Michael. So let's start off in the beginning. So in the beginning, you were drinking what?
Strawberry Hill, Spagnotta, anything that was less than $1.59.
Getting the job done kind of wine.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, you mean real wine?
No, I mean, those were the wines you're drinking. And then what did you get into?
Lancers, Rosé particularly. You know, I'm pretty old, so you know, go way back.
And why Lancers and all these things?
It's, you know, I didn't know wines very well, so I went into the restaurant. I asked whoever the server was, what should I drink with this food? And they would give you the Lancers Rosé. So
okay, and then when was it that you started getting into California wines?
Restaurants. You know, outside of a restaurant, I drank bourbon and beer. But when I went to restaurants, because I like to eat good, I would ask, what do we? And they would usually give you a Napa Cab. Italian restaurants would give you Chianti Classico or whatever it was and things. So pretty basic wine upbringing until I met this guy.
So you know he likes to eat, right? He likes to go out and eat at really nice restaurants. I mean, not necessarily expensive, but he likes really good food.
I mean, when you talk about pure enjoyment of wine on the podcast, I feel like that translates so well to food for Michael Pang here, because everyone says you can just see his pure enjoyment in eating.
Exactly. Especially in truffle in Piemonte, you know, when they have those little planes, those microplanes, and they weigh the truffle. Mm-hmm. Truffle's this fungus it's a fungi, I think, that lives underneath, and pigs and dogs find it, right? Mm-hmm. It has a very strong, pungent smell, and it's very expensive. It's very hard to come by, even more so now with all the drought conditions. And so when they find one, it's like finding gold. They're small, and they're very expensive and very hard to get fresh. So we were in Piemonte one year, and they take the truffle, they show it to you. It's in like either rice or salt or something so that it soaks up the moisture. And then they put it on a small little scale, and they put it there so you can see the reading before they start. And then they take it and they just shave according to what you want. Mm-hmm. And when they're finished shaving, then they put it back on the scale and they subtract it and they charge you per milligram or something, right?
Yeah, per gram.
Per gram. So we were there, and the lady was just... right? And she was like looking to stop. You know how you do peppermill?
Yeah.
And you're waiting for the customer to say, no.
Or like the Parmesan cheese or pepper.
And you go like this. So the lady just kept going. And so Michael was like, and she's like, and so finally he goes, no, it's okay. And in his mind, that truffle is going to cost 10 to 15 times as much when if you were to have it in Hawaii or New York or wherever. So while he's there, and it was just harvested this morning.
Oh, what better time? Yeah.
And one of the restaurants specifically, so as you know, Michelin 3-star is the highest generally the highest regarded restaurants, right? Across the world, whether it's France, Japan, England is another place, Spain is another famous place. So also Italy now. And so there's quite a few of Michelin 3-star restaurants spread out through Italy. So one of them is based in Piemonte, which is the northwest, which will be wine number 3 that we're going to try. And it's one of the most famous Michelin 3-star restaurants, specifically out of Italy. And it's called Duomo.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so Duomo is upstairs, and it's only a few tables. Underneath is a restaurant that's called La Piola. So that's their more casual restaurant.
Their second label.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't have to wear jackets.
Yeah.
so they're going to use these incredible ingredients from upstairs, but they're going to pick the lettuces and certain ones, and they're going to put it in upstairs, and all the remainder you're going to go downstairs. But it's going to be good.
Good. Yep.
So, of course, the white truffle there, Michael Pang is going to, he wants to
Have
load
at
up,
it.
man.
In my defense, we're in Alba during white truffle season. So it's €2 a gram, which, like he said, is about a fraction of what we pay here.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, go,
That's a
go,
steal.
go. It's a steal. Go, 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 go. Not so, it was a natural thing to do.
And
I
he
think.
puts a little, it's like shaved bonito. It's so thin, it's paper, it's less than paper thin. And he puts it on his dessert spoon, and all night you could just see him smelling it because it's so strong and pungent. We don't get that kind of truffles here in the United States, much less Hawaii.
And for that freshness, that specific freshness, just
So he's a
harvested.
gourmand is the point.
Once in a lifetime.
Wow,
Had
that's
to do it.
awesome.
Yeah. So just to set the table, I just want everybody to know this guy's really into it, whether it's wine or it's food or whatever. So that's the starting point of our Talk Story session.
Awesome.
Right? So then we started talking about Cabernet Sauvignon. And then you and I ran across each other on Maui, I believe, when Vino was open on Maui. Or was it before that?
No, we took the little puddle jumper into the Kapulu airport. We said hi because I had just met him and got off, and his ride didn't show up. So we gave him a ride. He said, "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" "We're going to someplace down in town." I said, No, come to the restaurant. Come at 8 o'clock. So he gave us a great
wow.
table. He picked the food. He picked the wines. I still didn't know how to pick wines at the time. I didn't know what was what. So he picked the wines. We had a great evening.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never get right.
I kind of remember, I think the first wine that we served you was a Gerard Cabernet Sauvignon. And then the second one was Barron's.
Wow.
So this was at Vino on Maui.
Yeah.
And what was the food, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, I don't remember the food. But, I mean, you have to understand, back then, that would have been like 2003, 2004.
Okay.
I think 2003 because we didn't open Vino in Honolulu yet. So I would have, this would have been 2003.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what started the relationship. Mm-hmm. And then I found out during that time he's dating my first cousin, Diane, right?
Yep.
And they got married. They were already married. And they weren't dating. They were already married. And I was like, oh, when was Daniel born? What year?
06.
So they hadn't had their child yet. So it was when I first met him. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he comes. And then when we opened Vino on Maui, then he would come by regularly. Right?
Honolulu.
Yeah, Vino Honolulu.
Yeah, Diane comes home one day and says, "Chuck's opened a restaurant. We got to go support him." I said, "All right, let's go."
Wow.
So they would come by, and then from Bordeaux, he had an aha moment with some friends of his. I think it was Sorrento's, maybe it was something like that. They had I recall it being a 1983, but he told me it was a 1986 Chateau Margaux, and it was like an aha moment for him. He was like,
That'll do
so
Yeah.
So then he started segueing to Bordeaux.
Well, that was the aha Bordeaux moment.
Oh,
So I go to Vino's, and we're going maybe once a week. And every time I show up, he always says, "What do you want to drink?" I said, "I don't know. What do you got?" Napa Cabs, Barron's and Hitchcock, and the like. And that's what he gave me for about a year. Then one day he says, "You're going to go to the dark side." So what does that mean? So he hands me something New World. I didn't really get it.
Oro.
World. So my friend Richard Ekimoto was there. So he says, "Okay, who understands Old World?" So he makes a barbecue at his house.
Okay.
Invites a friend, Sandy Goto, who I think was in business with Michael's dad once long ago.
He was part of Artfield Wine Company.
Oh, wow.
Sandy Goto. He was one of the original people.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we sit down at this table outside in the barbecue, and they open a 1986 Gerard LaRose. which was, I think, the best vintage they ever had. They opened a 1986 Margaux. They opened a 1986 Lafite.
Wow.
Two of those are 100-point wines, first growths. And I tasted through each one of them, and I looked at them, and I remember this. And I also remember the look on their face. I said, I don't get it. Where's the fruit? This is the opposite of the Napa fruit bombs. They're aged. You get all these
The
nicely
earthy
aged,
components.
the
Yeah.
tertiary flavors. But then he takes that to heart, and he starts. He would get a shipment from a friend, Brent Curlow, and one day he says, here's a case of wine. Give me this much money. And so I took it, and it was all aged Bordeaux. That started it. That and my OCD personality started it.
Oh, okay.
About 6 months later, I had 1,000 bottles in my office, 9 wine refrigerators.
Wow.
And it was off from that point. But
So do you remember, like, was there a specific bottle that was like, oh, this is it? Or was it just like the gradual transition of tasting through all of them and finding the nuances that you liked?
the Bordeaux aha moment was a 1975 Cheval Blanc
Oh, okay.
brought to Vino by Richard Ekimoto. And I just went,
okay.
holy smokes. Holy smokes. I think I'm getting it now. But just before that, I'd gone to a tasting that Chuck would do for the staff in the evenings. And he opened 60-something Coroti, just these amazing
Yeah.
wines turned out to be. I didn't realize it at the time. But he had a 75 J.J. Prum Auslese.
Oh, Riesling.
Ice fine.
And
Wow.
I tasted it. I said, wow, this is good. And nobody was drinking it for some reason. So Diane and I drank most of it. Every 15 minutes I would taste it and it would change continues dramatically. And at the very end of the night, 2 hours later, I drank it. I looked at her. I said, bacon and eggs. She said, yeah, bacon and eggs. I said, bacon and eggs out of a white wine. So,
Wow.
and that was it. I said, if Old World can do that, then
There's
I'm in.
something there.
I'm in. Yeah.
Something worth discovering.
So
for
just
sure.
to add that, here's a guy drinking big red wines. And I opened a 1975 J.J. Prum, Welaner Sonnenner, Auslese, Ice Fine. So please understand, 1983 forward, it had to be Baron Auslese, at least to be an Ice Fine. But during the 75 time, it was not, you didn't have to be anything. You could have a Spätlese Ice Fine if you wanted. It was just the freezing of the grapes.
Okay.
So this was a very unique and special wine. The second thing I just want to point, because he's into Sauterne.
Yes.
The other thing that I found so interesting about that was so Chateau Yquem and all these dessert wines he drinks has a significant amount of botrytis. So these honeyed flavors, honey,
Viscous.
apricot, nutty characteristics. And some Germans have that, but not the 75. 75 was the vintage that had virtually no, JJ didn't have any botrytis grapes in that Auslese. So it was this pure Riesling, aged, ice fine, which means, the grapes are frozen when they're crushed, and the ice is left behind as the water's left behind as ice. So you're concentrating the essence and the grape juice and the acids and everything, right? So he had the special, and that's the wine that he latched onto. Of all the
Wow.
wines we've consumed or had together over the years, that's the wine that was aha moment for him.
That was his aha moment, and then it was your aha moment about Michael Pang's aha moment, right?
Well, I just think it started this journey, and you could see that you could see in his eyes he was all
Lighting up.
like, "I want to learn." Show me everything. And although he still would drink Napa or Bordeaux or whatever, he takes all these side trips, and whenever we do dinners, he. Like he brought this one of
Cavaticci.
these two wines here tonight. So very special from the trip.
Very, very exciting.
The trip. Yeah.
So
The trip. It's
okay,
the
so
trip.
he had those aha moments, and then you started segueing into Bordeaux. And let me say this: so he mentioned that first few bottles that we got him, but you have to understand, I seek value for dollar, right? You know that. So I bought him like 86 Chateau Talbot or 89, these lesser wines. And he's not he was polite. He never said anything to me until I just realized right now. But he's probably thinking, why are you giving me this crap? I want Lafitte. I want Mouton. I want Latour.
I just had Cheval. Like, where's my...
And that's all he drinks, right? And so I'm thinking I'm doing a favor by saving him money. By doing these lesser growths with some age that I would buy because I think they're great value, right? Looking back on it, he probably thought, The hell? Hey, Chuck's giving me all the shitty wine, man. Is that true?
No, it was part of the transformation. You can't go from Napa Cab to First Growth Bordeaux and appreciate it all. You have to take the steps. So I took all the steps, and it was very valuable. It wasn't only one case. I think he did that 3 or 4 times, and so I just loved him. I took him to steakhouses. I ate food with them. I tried them out.
That's the point of those wines, right?
It was wonderful.
So he's drinking 80. Like when he and Diane renewed their vows, it was like 82 Lafite, 82 Mouton, 86 Lafite. I mean,
that was the one on Lanai, right?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that's him. He's such a character, man. And now he's on the Burgundy pages.
Burgundy.
You know, Burgundy now, the price goes even. So now, what I did to him on Bordeaux, he's doing on Burgundy. He's buying the lesser famous names and the lesser appellations. Because it's a shock, right, when you see the prices. Okay, so
for sure.
now we moved on to Bordeaux. And then, so 1 year, after that, then he started going on wine trips with several of the Vino regulars, and he would go to Washington State, for instance. You always went to Washington State, huh?
Went to Washington twice.
What interests you up there in Washington?
Walla Walla, cute little town. All the good wines are there down in Walla Walla. Went to Gramercy.
Oh, fun.
That's good wine.
Gramercy's terrific. And you were talking about Brandon the other day. He's amazing.
Yeah, Brandon Moss. He's
Brandon
the associate
Moss.
winemaker.
Yeah, Ryan Van.
Ryan
Never got
Van,
into the cayuses and things. Never got there, but
You said Ryan Van, yeah.
Ryan Van
was
is
talking about that too.
That's good wine too.
up and down there.
And you were drinking Force Majeure already, right?
Force Majeure.
And that's Red Mountain appellation.
Red Mountain. It's a tiny little hill.
That's the thing. You look at Red Mountain. You look at Wailuke Slope.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, the Wailuke Slope is flat. Red Mountain is like this little blip, and I'm going,
False
Horse Heaven
advertising.
Hills is flat. I'm like, where the heck is the mountains and the hills, man?
It's a Washington State thing, I think.
So what did you get out of the Washington trips?
By then, I'm drinking Rhone wines, Northern Rhone,
okay.
Southern Rhone. So I got that, here's Rhone varietals done New World style. This is probably predates going to Central Coast and all of that type of stuff. And trying to match it up and seeing what would it take to get Washington wine to be like Southern Rhone, Northern Rhone, and whatnot. I don't have the answer, but
It was fun.
it was fun. It was
Different
fun.
perspective for sure, too.
Yeah.
We did Willamette Valley, Napa a bunch of times, of course.
And then you went to Wine Speak
The Wine Speak, Atascadero.
at Paso Robles in Atascadero, yeah.
Atascadero. Oh man, what a event! Put together by Chuck. Ariana now I think is a Brian Player. What's her name from?
Working with Amanda Higgins
Holy
from
smokes.
Ancient Peaks.
Full of
Yeah.
energy, Amanda. And they do this amazing thing. If anybody ever gets a chance to go to Wine Speak,
Really well made, well done event. Yeah.
and
But
this-
it opened your eyes to Paso Robles, Santa Barbara, all these different things, yeah?
absolutely
Meeting all these different winemakers from everywhere, right?
It was amazing. We're in this little town that has one hotel. Doesn't even have a meeting room. You got to go use the city council's meeting room to have your functions. And these guys from around the world, from Australia, from France, from Italy, they come all around. Winemakers, master sommeliers, wine people. Some lady who writes from Wine Magazine comes down into this little nothing town. And you've done it 3 times?
Yeah.
3 times? And it's...
She went twice.
It's
Twice,
Yeah.
right?
Twice.
He went twice, too.
it's terrific learning.
You guys only
experience.
overlapped 1 year.
Oh, he went.
He didn't
first.
come 3, but he was there 1, 2. You were there 2, 3.
Yep.
Yeah, fabulous learning experience.
Okay, so then you also went to, of course, you went to France with Carl and the whole gang, right?
Carl and Richard went to Bordeaux 1 year, 45 chateau in 7 days.
Wow.
Then we did Champagne, Burgundy 1 year for a month.
So who plans the agenda?
Bordeaux was Carl.
Carl. Oh, okay.
Carl did a lot of it. Burgundy was mostly me because Carl, after saying, let's go to Burgundy, says, I don't know anything about Burgundy. So I said, all right, I'm going to learn.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I told you, whenever he travels, he has
got
a
the
little,
itinerary.
yeah, he's got a little folder for a dossier on every single destination, the restaurants, the parking, the menus, the wine lists. I mean, he's pretty intense in terms of specifically where he wants. He's
Good
done his
travel buddy
research.
then, yeah.
Yeah, same like wine, same like foods. He's very specific what he wants.
Well, that was I knew nothing about Burgundy and Champagne, and I had to get into all of these places to taste wine or visit and things. I used his name a lot.
For sure, for sure.
But it's just another example of the wine world unfolding for you, right?
Absolutely. For people that have not traveled to wine destinations and things, it makes the picture complete. You like a wine, you drink it, you understand what the grape is, maybe how they do a few other things, but to go there and see it and talk to the people who make it just rounds it all out. It makes the picture complete.
And you would also, because you like to eat out and experience food, you would also go to the region and have the kind of regional foods that would be served with the kind of wines that's grown and made there, right?
My first observation, and it's true to this day, is every region has a certain cuisine, and they make the wine to fit the cuisine, and vice versa.
It's like organically matching together.
Over the centuries, they just melded together, and the best thing that goes with this food is their wine, and vice versa. It's this last trip that we went, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, so then you do up and down France and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, Ariana, my dream was always to go to Corsica, right? And so I had tasted a wine I thought it was in the 70s, but it was actually more in the late 80s, early 90s, and I had a wine from Corsica and Claude Necrosi, and it was like this otherworldly wine that I was like, oh my God, I never had a wine. It was so thick and unctuous, but it was dry. And it smelled like the wild, sun-baked countryside. It was just this incredible other kind of wine. I'd never had something like that before, So I wanted to go, but I never.
Corsica is an island, part of France, but it's an island off of France in the Mediterranean, in between France and Italy.
Yes, so it's right off the tip of Provence, and if you go to the east more, then there's Italy, right? And then below that is the island of Sardinia. So Corsica belongs to France. Sardinia belongs to Italy. And the other claim to fame of Corsica is that it was the birthplace of Napoleon Bonaparte.
Got it.
Right? So there's a lot of history there.
And the mafia.
And the
mafia.
So that's why I never went. I was always told it wasn't safe. But one year we decided to go. Michael Pang, Cheryl, and I. So off we went. We landed in the north part of the island and in Bastia. And Michael drove and we traversed the countryside.
And it's a pretty windy road along the coast, right?
Yes.
We went back and forth. We navigated this thing up and down, all the way from the north to the south. It's mountainous. It's country. There's no large cities. Even Ajaccio is not a large city.
Oh, wow.
That's the capital.
Yeah. There's no large winemaking companies there. They're all family operations handed down over the generations. Very country.
Wow.
Very amazing. The food and the wines.
So the roads, to answer your question, was super narrow and super windy like this. It's like driving a Hana.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And you could drive for hours and not see a sign of civilization. So the northern part of the island is very remote. As a matter of fact, Kermit Lynch or somebody, Bruce Nyers or somebody told me once that if you took a satellite picture of Corsica from the satellite up in space, it would look like one big mountain.
Oh, wow.
But as you go closer, then you'll see all these little valleys and all these nooks. But I mean, it is very mountainous. And it's a very rugged, sun-baked terrain for sure.
Very country. We'd run into cows, sheep, sleeping on the road all the time.
Hogs.
Had to be very careful when you go around the corner.
Yeah. I mean,
is that what you were expecting when you first were told, okay, Chuck's we're going to Corsica? Is that kind of what you imagined already? Or you were just like, I don't know, I'm just going to wing it and see?
I had no idea. I was just so happy because if I didn't go with them, I would probably never get to go there. I'm a traveler. I love to travel, and I don't think I would have ever gotten to go there. Certainly not on kind of a wine adventure that we did.
Oh,
so
wow.
Overall, what would you say about Corsica? What was the either aha or disappointment? What did you get when you walked away from Corsica?
Corsica is French. It belongs to France right now, but it's flip-flop between France and Italy. So there's some characteristics of both. I mean, Jolly Clown, but Appatucci, Italian. The food, the wine, the people were just friendly. What you expect out of, country, down-to-earth folks. Their wines are delicious. It goes with the food. The food is not quite French, not quite Italian. It's something a little
somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. It's Corsican,
and they're very proud of their Corsican heritage.
They don't think of
too.
themselves as French at all.
It's Corsica for them.
They're Corsican. Yeah.
They're proudly Corsican.
So Chuck made all the wine visits, got us to every incredible place. Cheryl made all the hotel arrarrangements, amazing hotels for reasonable prices.
Oh, that's good. Good to know for if people
She's
want to
great
travel.
at that.
Yeah.
She's great.
She told me her secret. I'll tell you after this. And I picked the restaurants, and we got lucky. We all contributed something, and it just worked out grand. We ate.
So what was the
well.
best thing that you ate and maybe drink together?
So before you
Specifically
get
in
into that, let me just explain.
He knows the
If
story.
Corsica is an island, if it's a clock, so we landed at 12 in Bastia. That area up there in the north is called the Patrimonio. And it's very mountainous, and it's very granite everywhere. It's very rocky. And then when you start heading down the west coast of Corsica,
Towards Ajaccio.
towards Ajaccio, Calvi is like, I would say 10:30, 11 o'clock. And it's an appellation that's a seaport. So it's one side is the ocean, the other three sides are mountains.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of trapped there. And then when you head down, about 8:30, 8:45 is Ajaccio. Ajaccio is the capital. To me, it seems like it's the largest city or town in that whole thing. And it's kind of like, it looks like it's been there for a while. It's kind of, I don't know what the correct word, but it's Ajaccio. So that's where he's talking about. He wanted to go there as well because Napoleon Bonaparte was born there. He wanted to see the
history, yeah.
place. But also, he found the restaurant that he wanted to go there in Ajaccio.
Well, typical as of Corsica, the restaurant we had reservations at was closed the night we had reservations for there. So we had a backup, luckily. We went to the backup. 20123. 20123 is the restaurant's name. You walk in, it's very dark, it's small, all locals. They hand you a ceramic pitcher empty when you walk in. You sit down at your table, and somebody points out the little statue against the wall with water coming out of its
Like
mouth.
a little spigot?
Well, just spitting out water, and you got to go there, and that's
From
where
the well.
That's
The
where
well.
you get your water from the well.
That's how you get your water.
Got to send Chuck on errands. Chuck, go get the water from the well right now. Bring it to the table.
I was the relief pitcher. You know why I did it?
Ooh.
Because they say a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Man, that first one was way better.
So anyway, this restaurant was small, and the food was very Corsican. So it was very hearty. Was very you could see it was home cooked. Wasn't fancy. There was no fancy garnishes. Just lamb stew or just simple.
Do we know a reason for the name, by the way? 2123
I don't know. I don't remember.
Zip code or something.
zip code or something. Okay.
Beats me. No, I don't think they have zip codes there. That's too backwards.
But he chose a restaurant, and we actually had a little bit of time trying to find it because, Corsica. Ajaccio is a bunch of little alleys, and so we found it finally. We went there, and he, I think, had one of his most aha moments with wine and food there.
This was the aha moment. They hand you the menu, which had like 4 things on it. They hand you the wine list, which had about 12 bottles on it. But right on top was an Abatucci, Valle de Nero. And we were going to see Jean-Claude Abatucci the next day.
John Charles?
Jean Charles.
Ooh.
They say Jean-Claude. I said, okay. And so we ordered it. 2015 Valle de Nero, wine number 1.
Wine number 1.
Wine number 1. And so we ordered it, not knowing what we're going to eat. But I was lucky enough to order the lamb stew, country-style lamb stew. All it was lamb, that beautiful tomato
Braised.
gravy on top with mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. Okay.
It was melt in your mouth tender. It was
Hearty.
delicious. And it went perfectly with the wine. We got lucky. It just went amazingly perfect.
Okay, so that's his story. My story about this thing is that it's so bizarre to me that this small little hole in the wall would have the Abatucci Valle de Nero wine. So just to give you some history on that, Valle de Nero is one of his hardest to get wines. The Rosso,
And that's what's in our glass right now.
yes,
The
the production was between 175 and 200 cases total. So how the hell can this small hole in the wall, or how can he get this wine out here in Hawaii when there was only 175 to 200 cases produced? And the second thing that was crazy is that, what Abatucci's famous for is he's famous for biodynamic farming, as you know. He's one of the top uber organic farmers in the world. I mean, he is like the fanatic of fanatics. And the other thing that he's really a champion of is indigenous grapes. So he and his father and his grandfather would forage the hills and the valleys in search of nearly extinct, from
Like Corsican
vines.
native grapes. Yes.
From all these peasant farmers and all these dilapidated fallow vineyards, and this is one of the grapes that he resurrected. So this is that Carcajuelo Neto.
Carcajuelo Neto.
Wow.
And so it's 100% Carcajuelo Neto, indigenous. He was the guy that resurrected it. There's a couple other people taking his cuttings now. And then the third thing I want to say is he talked about the lamb stew. Okay, so a lot of wines are fruit-driven. You can see this wine is totally savory.
Yep.
And that's what made it go with the lamb stew. It's not whether it's aged. It's not whether it's tannic. It's not whether it's oak aged or anything. This is just because this grape variety in this vineyard creates a savoriness that went perfectly with his lamb stew. It was perfect. It was a perfect pairing. So what's the chances of all this thing happening from him ordering something off two things off the menu?
That's crazy. Well, also it's the universe talking to you where thank goodness the first restaurant was closed and the universe spoke and said, well, instead you'll have the perfect wine pairing, huh?
This happens to us a lot.
Yeah, it does actually. So how would you describe this wine for the viewer, Ariana?
So for the viewer, well, it's also so crazy because, thinking about what this grape is, I guess that doesn't necessarily matter technical, but it fits in this perfect in-between as well in terms of texture and mouthfeel. It's not big, bold, juicy, black, jammy fruit like a Napa Cab would be, but it's also not really light and meek and doesn't have a backbone to it. It fits right in between. It has a savoriness. It has an unctuousness, has grit, but in a nice way, a pleasant way for sure. Yeah.
It flows very evenly and seamlessly from beginning to end. It finishes unoaky, unalcoholic, unbitter, and it's totally savory.
I have like a savory herb characteristic coming
absolutely.
out through it. Yeah.
And that's another thing about the herbs, Michael. We visit Apatucci. What surrounded the whole vineyard?
Well, before I even say that, for the audience, if they had served the Napa Cab with that lamb stew, it would have just dominated the whole thing. That savoriness they talk about here, it's not that fruit bomb style of thing. You can actually taste the grape. You can taste the terroir. You can taste the herbs. So Jean-Claude Apatucci has a huge property, and he drove us around in the back of it. This tiny little go-kart of some. Well, no, Cheryl and I were in the back. He was in front, riding on the comfortable seat.
With the air conditioning blowing on me.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I'm
okay.
just joking.
Diva-licious over there.
Yeah, and he would stop and look at the granite soils that was crumbling on the side. But he would also stop at all of his herbs. He had
Wow.
all kinds of herbs there, and it was growing, and it was important to him that it grows
Just around the vineyards.
in the ground. And,
Okay.
and it would impart something into the wines. So it's growing in the middle of his rows
Oh, wow. Okay.
and things. And so I think he believes, and it does, I think, impart something into the wines that he makes.
There's a special nuance there that it's not just artificially added. It's literally growing together.
It's there in the soil.
Wow.
So the most common herb or shrub that seems to surround the vineyard is myrtle.
Okay.
Myrtle, myrtle. And myrtle has what they call like a camphor-like aroma. Camphor is something like mothball kind of aromas, so it's very uplifting. And you can smell that in this thing. And I also get a slight licorice kind
I was
of
going to say
smell.
like anise, like some sort
And
of
this
like, yeah.
kind of thing, yeah. So, that's all that's not from the grape. That's from the surrounding countryside. And as much as he farms the vines biodynamically, it's his whole way of life, even his house, his winery, it's all sustainable.
Oh, wow.
And so he's really a man that lives it, not just talks about it.
To Michael's point too, if this is in the wine and these herbs are in the wine, I'm sure that the people are sourcing local and using these local herbs in the food as well. So it's a natural
Exactly.
pairing.
Yep, absolutely.
That's beautiful. And what is Apatucci like as a man? I know that he's all about the little nuances and herbs and things. What's his personality like?
So John Charles, go ahead. You talk about John Charles.
Well, we go to lunch. He directs us down to this seaside place, seafood place, to have lunch. We're sitting there. He shows up. Has a big book under his arm. And he says, this is handed down from my father. All our winemaking secrets are here.
Wow.
Do you want to see
And
it?
Chuck took it and ran, though.
I said, yeah.
And grape growing, by the way.
And grape growing,
yeah.
okay.
I said, yeah. He hands it to me. Open it up. It's all in Italian. That's Jean-Claude Abatucci.
Wow.
John Charles, sorry.
All handwritten?
Oh yeah, all handwritten.
Wow.
But the knowledge that was in that book. Probably,
Yeah. Oh, that's wild.
So from my perspective, because of biodynamic, so all of his vines are very old. They're at least 60 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So when the top part of the vine doesn't produce enough grapes anymore, you have to replace it. So most people would dig it up and replant something, right? Let the vineyard stay fallow, let it get re-energized, and then plant something else. So what he did instead was he cut off the top because he wanted to keep the root system there because they're so old. And the fact that they were raised biodynamically, they're used to the biodynamic regime, which is a very strict, uber organic, even beyond organic kind of thing. So he kept the root system, and to that, he grafted on
The new vines.
the new vines that he collected, all like Carcajolinero.
Wow.
And he was showing us vine by vine, even though it was still harvest, all of his cuts inside the vine, because he is almost like,
Incisions.
it's almost like a bonsai guy, where he wanted to make the incision so unobtrusively that the vine wouldn't concentrate on healing. The vine would instead concentrate on producing great fruit.
Wow.
So that you want to talk about passion. That
And the
guy is totally,
patience,
yeah. It's like this bonsai, like that sushi chef that massages the octopus for 7 or 8 hours to make sure it's tender and all that stuff. So it's the same kind of dedication.
Wow.
This is the part where I gotta say what it's like to travel with Chuck Furuya on a wine trip. You don't head straight for the tasting room or whatnot. You head to the vineyards. And a lot of times he's been introduced to these people, or hasn't really met these people before. They've looked him up, so they know he's got a title and some background and things, but they don't know his passion and things. They go to the vineyard, and usually they speak a little bit of English. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but like he said in one of his previous podcasts, you communicate somehow. And they see this passion in him. Same thing here. We show up at Abatucci's. He's polite at the beginning, but he's just polite. Then after a few minutes, this guy knows. He just wants to see my vineyard. So we go into the vineyard. He shows us something. He's asking him questions. The man of 1,000 questions, asking him questions. And pretty soon their passion comes out. And they show him everything they got. They lay it all out on the line. This happens time after time after time. I don't know how many people Abatucci would spend this kind of time. We're there for
Especially during harvest.
during harvest.
During harvest, and vine by vine, incision by incision.
He drove us the whole place looking at vineyards, and this happens visit after visit. That's what it's like to go on a wine trip with Chuck Furuya. You never really make it to the tasting room.
That's
We
okay.
never make it to the tasting room. I feel like I can sleep, eat, and taste wines at home, but I can't walk vineyards.
Yep.
Okay, so then we leave Corsica, and then the next area I want to talk about is the following year we went to Italy, and we specifically were targeting several main areas. One of them was Liguria, which is on the west coast of Italy. It's referred to as the Italian Riviera, and we were going to see a couple of different sub areas of Liguria, but the one I want to talk about today is specifically called Dolce Acqua. So that's in the northwestern part of Italy, right around the corner from Monaco. It's like, how far is it a drive from?
20 kilometers.
20 kilometers.
kilometers,
to
wow.
Monaco.
So Monaco and then France continue, so it's right around the corner. So even though it's right there on the ocean with all these big name cities, it's tucked so into the valley. It's so vertically remote that it's timeless. It's stuck in time. I mean, it's just incredible how stuck in time that whole area is. It's like, you're surprised to see trucks there. And the trucks are much smaller because the roads are so narrow and so windy. Dolce Acqua is super steep. Where all these other appellations may be steep, Dolce Acqua, even the guy from Variegotti, Punta Crena, their vineyards are very steep. He goes, no, if you're going to Dolce Acqua, now you talk about steep. And the vineyards are super steep, and they're inland, up closer to the Alps, and so they're much cooler. It's a very unique growing area.
Absolutely. Very, very steep. Everything has to be trucked up. And a lot of the vineyards are towards the top. Water has to be trucked up. All the things they do.
Vineyard management is like tender love and care if you're going to work those vineyards, right?
Well, that's why if you look, something like over 70% of the vineyards are now fallow.
Oh, wow.
Nobody wants to work that hard anymore. And the other thing that's really hurting, because these vineyards are so steep and you have to truck everything you need up to these vineyards. And the other thing that's really hurting is wild animal foraging. So these guys are losing at least 50% of their crop every year to wild deer, wild boar, wild badgers, etc.
Wow.
And they can't hunt these animals. So all you can do is create fences. And specifically electrical fences is what you really need.
They can't hunt due to law.
Yeah, by law, you can't shoot these animals. So what's the chances of a fence or electrical fence specifically lasting on these steep terraced hillsides? It's not possible. It's not economically feasible. So people have given up. Yeah.
I give them, the guys who are there, a lot of credit. It's a tough place to work. It's a tough place to save your crops at. And they make such good wine.
What time of year did you guys visit? Was it also during harvest time?
Yeah.
September.
Yeah. September.
Oh,
wow.
No, it was more October.
That's right. First 2 weeks of October.
Yeah, because it was we were still tasting grapes off the vines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's all obviously hand-picked for,
You have to. Everything's got to be done by hand. It's too steep. Yeah.
No machines.
Oh, that's crazy.
So the grape there is called Rosese.
Rosese. So this is Rosese di Dolce Acqua that we have in our glass right now.
So Dolce Acqua is actually a small little town.
Tiny.
Super tiny. It was actually like a medieval town, you could see. Still with the moat around it, although the moat is not filled so much with water.
Oh, wow.
No, but I mean, it's from those ages.
Yeah.
So Dolce Acqua
Like
is
Game
a
of
very
Thrones
old.
time. Okay.
Is very old, and even when you go down the alleys, you can see it's like the days of,
I think
having
you
a
showed me
torch.
like those little windows, like they're all the stone windows and everything like that.
It's very ancient. So that's Dolce Acqua. It's a throwback in time.
Oh, wow.
One small market, one road in the town.
So all these people that are working, are they, I'm assuming, family owned as well? It's just tradition for these winemakers, or
Family owned.
family owned?
Yeah.
So they don't have any mortgage. That's the only reason why they can still make it. But these vineyards are steep, Ariana. I mean, really steep, and I truly believe that the root system of the vines hold the soil in place.
Oh, wow.
So this Rosese grape variety is a grape variety that you see planted in other places, in Liguria specifically. Some people say it's the same grape as Tiburon in Provence, but it never reaches the heights that you get in Dolce Acqua.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really something
In terms
special.
of complexity
And energy.
and energy. Okay.
More importantly, energy. This wine, you'll see. Well, you tell me what you taste about this wine.
Well, I was gonna say, if we're comparing, Abatucci had like this really nice savory earthiness. There's still an earthiness here, but it's more of a high tone. There's like a vibrance. There's kind of like this. I think energy is a really good way to describe it, but it's like a brighter fruit for me.
Brighter fruit, medium body.
Yep.
Delicious with the food that they make there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ate 2 different meals there, and their wines are perfect for their food. We ate 3, right? 3 dinners.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we went up to the mountain castle one time. And
Are these pasta, veal type dishes, or
All of the above.
yeah,
Yeah.
But it's really rustic food.
rustic foods?
And there's a lot of innards. In all these areas, they eat. It's considered a delicacy. It's not like leftovers.
Is there like an irony quality to the food?
Yeah.
So is there like a little bit of like a irony sanguine quality in the wine as well?
I wouldn't say irony. I don't get blood in this one. I get that more in Alto Piemonte.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that has more iron to the soil. This soil is a lighter gray.
Lighter gray. Okay.
Yeah, so it's called Fleisch, and it's a combination of sand,
Fleisch.
a little bit of granite, a little bit of sandstone, and everything. It's called Fleisch. Flysch. Fleisch.
So I can imagine that when you say the roots are literally holding that together, that seems like a type of soil that really needs to be held together well.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Kind of dangerous conditions almost.
well. It's not really, but it's just so remote. It's vertically remote. Yes, Mike.
Vertically remote. And we even ran through town once. And I remember when we arrived in Italy, we went to get our car, and we got upgraded to this huge van. And Chuck says, we can't take that because we're going to run into some really tiny, skinny streets. Well, in Dolce Acqua, we took a smaller van.
Now understand, he likes big cars.
Okay.
Well, size matters. So we're going
Big
through
is
this
better.
town, and we're lost. And we go down this street, and literally we fold in the mirrors. We made it by less than an inch on each side. That's how old these places are.
Oh my
A
goodness.
horse probably fit through.
And,
there.
and we had a small thing. It wasn't the big thing.
Yeah. Like, thank goodness.
If we had
you
that big thing,
downsized.
we
Yeah.
we wouldn't have made it.
Who was driving?
Michael, of course.
We don't let him drive.
Oh, okay.
The only
okay.
challenge with Michael is that
lead foot.
we're in the mountains, and he's on his cell phone talking to his son because it's 12 hours difference. And Corsica has windy roads and it's steep cliffs, right? So I'm sitting there going, whoa, because he's talking to his son and he's getting animated. And I'm sitting there going, shit.
Because you're on the side that it's going to go
I know.
over.
I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so this is the Rosese de Dolce Acqua. And Michael, what kind of foods would you imagine eating this with?
Pastas. They had lambs there. Almost anything. You could probably even eat seafood with it.
Duck.
Duck.
Oh, duck.
Oh, duck would be great. But it went so well with almost everything. We ordered it every time. 11
Easy
euros
drinking.
in
Wow.
a restaurant.
Oh, that's a steal.
I'm sorry to have to tell that to people to try buy it
Oh,
here.
my
but,
goodness.
Yeah, so this bottle of Anfoso I bought from our field Kailua.
Okay.
The Carcajolo he brought, so it wouldn't be anywhere.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think only Vino got some of that Carcajolo in there.
maybe that's where I got it.
But this Rosese was at our field, and I think it was like $27, $28 a bottle.
Not bad for something that's going to go with that much variety of food too. That's awesome.
It's, Chuck would always run us through, well, does it taste good? Yes. Is it gulpable? Yes. Is it good wine? Yes. Would you buy it? Yes.
Hits all the checks.
It's all those check marks,
Wow.
Yeah, because, we can't buy everything, right? So what are we going to invest our money in? So that's the point. Is that whether I like the wine is secondary. Because we're Vino, we had to select wines that went with the Mediterranean-style foods. That's what these two first wines represent.
Well, also as a som, if you have to pick things that are right for your program, why not pick something food-friendly like this one in the glass we have right now, because it goes with so many different things.
goes with so many.
You
People
make
would
a
love
lot
it.
of different people happy, right?
People
You know
would love
why?
it.
Because if you look at the acids, they're not hard. They're more
But
pliable.
they're still lift. Yeah.
They're pliable. It's like how many Sangioveses or how many Nebbiolos do you taste that are very hard? They're not pliable. This wine has pliability. So it can bend and mold with a lot of different kind of foods. And plus that, it has deliciousness. It took me a little bit to understand this wine. I think this wine is terrific, though. And it's indigenously Italian.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
So nothing fancy, this winery, nothing fancy at all. It's a small little shack. It's just this guy whose family's owned it for like 5 generations or something. So, his vineyard, I take it back, maybe 4 generations, because his vineyard that we visited, Poggio Pini, was planted in 1888. So,
Enfoso, yeah.
yeah, and Fosso, that's one of his vineyards. The other vineyard was planted in 1905.
Wow.
So, yeah. So his family's been farming these vineyards for a long time.
I think you guys are both definitely inspiring the viewers for post-COVID travels. Try something a little bit off the beaten path, because these wines are delicious. And the next wine is actually also Italy as well. This is going into Piemonte, correct?
So when Liguria is on the west coast of Italy, it goes like this. And then if you head eastward and a little bit north, you're going to hit Piemonte. That's the area that's most famous for Barolo and Barbaresco.
That smells so good. Sorry, cut ahead.
So when you drive into the main city the main town for Barolo and Barbaresco, it's called Alba. That's also the center of truffle season. So we were there at total truffle season. So please understand that a few decades ago, we were lucky if we got only 2 or 3 vintages out of every 10 that fully ripened Nebbiolo. So imagine having a restaurant that's only open 2 or 3 nights of the week. So now we essentially have a vintage every single vintage. So because of that, it's hustle and bustle. There's since the last time I went 2 or 3 years ago, there's all these new hotels. There's all these new restaurants. It's expanded dramatically, right? That's Barolo and Barbaresco. What? It was hard finding parking, huh?
It was. But Cherofanas, the perfect restaurant. The perfect hotel. We go out for a little walk. A block down the road was this big open square where the truffle festival was.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was truffle
Truffle
season.
Festival.
Truffle festival.
Oh my
Oh
God,
my
sign me up.
God.
There's all these stations in the road.
Of truffles.
Yeah, people selling truffle stuff.
Oh my God! Don't tell my husband about this. He's gonna just.
Well, that's
sign up
because
and
your
go
husband is.
away.
That's because your husband is a fun guy.
Fungi. There
I
we
know.
go.
There we
I
go.
knew that one.
Saw
So
that one
anyway,
coming.
it's hustle and bustle. Okay, so now when you drive around Alba and Barolo and Barbaresco, you see vineyards planted everywhere. It's almost all Nebbiolo now because Nebbiolo can ripen, whereas it couldn't ripen before.
So they're excited about it. Yeah.
So it doesn't interest me as much now. So that's why we took a trek out to the Monferrato. It's part of this whole region, but it's on the outskirts. And it's more east, and a little bit northeast of it. And it's just this own little area. The soils have a little more sand to them as opposed to calcareous marl.
And you love sand.
Yeah,
Yep.
and there's this one producer that we went to see.
Valpani.
Yeah, Cantina Valpani. And this family's been doing it for, I think there's records showing them in the 1600s or something like that, growing these grapes and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. And so Nebbiolo is not the focus there. It's other grapes, nearly forgotten grapes. Like in this case, the one we're pouring is the Moscatelina.
Moscatelina.
And the most crazy thing about this wine, look at the color. Look how light it is. Look how bricky it is on the rims. And smell the aromatics.
Well, for me, I was honestly just tripping out over this wine. I know I cut ahead a little bit, and it actually stopped me in my tracks though, because that like rosy potpourri purple lavender smell, it's like it makes you stop and think for a little bit before it's like, what am I drinking? And we're just in conversation, but I had to go back to the wine because those aromatics are unreal.
It's nuts, yeah.
It's nuts, yeah.
And what would you say about that, Pietro? What do you think about him and his family and the vineyards and everything?
It's old time people. They've done this. They live it. They live it every day. They work it every day. They have their heart and soul in the soil, in the land. It's on their face. And so again, they take a walk in the vineyards with Chuck for about 15 minutes, and they realize he's got that passion. The look comes across their face. We sit back and they just go off, and they go on and on with each other.
And the winemaking is more concrete.
Oh, okay.
And all old barrels. You don't see a lot of stainless steel at this winery. It's like old style wine, like the way it was intended to be for me. The wines have soul. They're extra. Ariane, I bought this wine at our field for like $18 or $19 a bottle.
Wow, that is a steal. All these wines are so unique in their own way, but they all really fit in this really cool, like, it's neither Pinot and it's not Cab. It's something unique that you haven't had before. And it's, for me, the aromatics are what's zinging about this wine for
So
sure.
you try this wine with that pizza.
Okay.
Where normally we would drink Chianti or, more savory red wines. You try this, you try that pizza with these kind of aromatic wines. It creates a whole nother dynamic. And then,
A whole nother layer. Yeah.
like he was talking about, which comes first, the food or the wine. So if you come from the food aspect, and you want to pair the food to the wine, all you have to do is throw a little bit of thyme or rosemary or basil on top of the pizza, and it'll totally connect with the aromatics of the wine and make it even a more interesting dynamic pairing.
Absolutely. I feel like this wine also has a great versatility with it too because of those aromatics.
Yeah.
Really scrumptious.
Classically Italian, but elegant.
Really. So
Not
what
too heavy.
other types of grape varietals is Valpane championing? What other
Well, the
types
one
of-
they're most famous for, and they used to win all these high accolades back in the 1800s for,
the
was
1800s.
was their Barbera. They were one of the most highly touted Barbera producers.
You're not joking. The 1800s, they were getting accolades.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was specifically for the Barbera. Their Barbera is more meaty, more gamey, more rustic, more, it's not for everybody,
Yeah.
but it's soulful to me. Their Barbera, and for the price, it's ridiculous the quality you're getting. Now, in addition to that, they grow Fresa, which is another grape, which is a little more aromatic. And then you have Grignolino, which is very aromatic and very elegant and very suave. And then you have this one, the Rosso Rusque, which is Moscatelina. This is the most aromatic of their reds. And they just create magic with food, and they're just such great value. And please note that this wine is still savory in the core. Even though it has these aromatics, if you really look closely, it's still got that wonderful savoriness that makes this so incredibly food friendly with Mediterranean-inspired foods.
And I don't want people, our viewers who don't have it in the glass with them, to assume that it's light and flimsy, because although the aromatics are so pretty, there's still a really nice structure and a base to it without it being harsh and tannic either.
Yeah, it would stand up to almost any Italian food.
Yeah,
Spaghetti
yeah.
sauce, as well as the meats and things as well.
Well, hopefully our posse can enjoy some Valpane wines sometime soon this summer. So this is going to be on our list for sure. Valpane is where it's at.
I'm hoping we get that Muscadet in too, by the way, for the
Stay
summer.
tuned, guys.
We found this unreal Muscadet that would be great with oysters. Finally, finally we found one. It's just a
So-
question of trying to get it here.
So I should have brought the Modesto.
Oh, that's next, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to head away from the Monferrato,
Okay.
and then we're going to go from Monferrato virtually north, just straight up north. So from Alba, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours drive north, slightly east of Alba, in an area that I refer to as Alto Piemonte. The people in Italy don't know what Alto Piemonte is, but it's the upper part of Piemonte. It's very different. It's closer to the French Alps. It's closer to the Alps, I should say. So you can see Mount Bianco, or
Oh,
Mount
wow.
Blanc as the French, right there. We're driving up there, you can see it.
And the elevation is higher, I'm assuming.
Yep, and also the soil changes. So in Barolo and Barbaresco,
Sand.
you have more calcareous marl soils, white with some dark soils to it. And then you saw the pictures of Fantino. The vineyards are virtually white, so it's like that. And then now when you're talking about where we're talking about now, Alto Piemonte, you're talking about more granite soils, more volcanic-based soils, more porphyry rock kind of soils, sandstone. So it's a darker soil, so you're going to have a different character in the wine. And then in Barolo and Barbaresco, for those two appellations, for a Barolo and a Barbaresco, it has to be 100% Nebbiolo. So that's a very hardy, robust, high tannic, high acid grape. Whereas in the Alto Piemonte, all their wines is Nebbiolo based, but maybe 60%. And the rest is these blends of other grapes.
Do they call it Spana there?
Spana? Spana is a nickname.
For Nebbiolo?
Yeah, for Nebbiolo, yeah. So of the top producers, what we have here is one that's called Antoniotti, Odilio Antoniotti, and this is his Brahma Terra. So there's several different main villages in the Alto Piemonte. It's Fara, Cisano, Gemme, Gattinara, Brahma Terra, Bocca, and I'm missing Lesona.
This one.
And so those are the main villages of the thing. And before, this area used to be the area for Italian wines in Piemonte, before Barolo and Barbaresco.
Oh, wow.
But
So
then
this predates that.
with the phylloxera plague that devastated all the vineyards of Europe, and the very fact that when the Industrial Revolution also happened, Milan is only 40 minutes away, 45 minutes. So all the people went there to work, make more money, less strenuous work than working these hillsides.
Milan
So
is
that-
only 45 minutes away?
Yeah.
Wow, why don't I go
40,
live in
45
Milan?
minutes.
Oh my goodness, okay.
So it's very close. It's
Okay.
very close.
It's like Dolce Acqua. A lot of fallow ground there.
A lot of fallow ground. And so it's slowly now being resurrected. And so you don't see a lot of the old time wineries that I grew up with anymore. And you're seeing this small, what's the word, genesis of a new age of winemakers. And it's led by this incredible superstar winemaking consultant named Cristiano Garella.
Garella, okay.
He consults for like 19 of the top states there. I mean, he's like the man. And then you're seeing these stars like Gilberto Bonaperti,
Bonaperti, yeah.
who's making wines in Fara. And his wines just got Tre Bicchieri,
Yeah.
tree glasses. I mean, there was like three producers in 19 when we were there that got Tre Bicchieri, which is the hugest honor from
Yeah.
Gamboroso. And when you consider
And that's like an industry thing too, right?
yeah. And they're getting it above Barolo and Barbaresco.
Wow.
That's a huge thing.
That's
So
saying
and
something.
deservedly so. So the three Tre Bicchieris that I know of that came from the Alto Piemonte was Antoniolo from Gattinara, was Bonaperti from Fara, and then the one that you have in our glass is the Antoniotti Brahma Terra.
Wow.
So please
exciting.
understand that we hand carried this bottle back. So I wish I had a bottle of Bonaperti and some of Cristiano's other projects like Carlone, his own label La Piane, La Pianelle. These are what was it, Calambera and Garella. He's got several different projects of his own. I just can't get him right now with this pandemic. Everything is shut down. But I wish sooner or later I want to show you the wines of Alto Piemonte because they're priced well and they offer earlier drinking and amazing with foods. Yes, Mike?
Amazing. Oh my God.
We went to all these restaurants, and what are your comments about that?
I said, "Oh my God," about this wine. This was amazing. We weren't even scheduled to see Odilio. And then I think Cristiano is an amazing guy. He greets us the first day. He takes us to the first visit.
It's harvest.
And over the course of 4 days, he's popping up everywhere, here, there. He just kind of shows up, does this. He showed up at our tasting, and he says, "You have to go see Odilio." And Odilio, he's an older guy. I would
81,
say 81, 82. Somehow they work that out. Somehow they work it out, and his vineyard's way the heck up in the mountain. I mean, way up there in nowhere land. And he sends his son down on a motorbike, Mateo, to come and get us. Takes us up these roads, these bumpy roads. I don't know how the car made it. Poor rental car. But anyway, we finally get to this thing, and it's just, I don't know, what do you have? 3 hectares maybe up there. And then when we tried these wines, it's just amazing. It's dry up there. It's barren, but it makes this amazing wine, and you can taste it in the wine. The soils, the rock,
the rockiness.
So this wine, so he spent a long time because he doesn't speak any English. His son was translating. I think his name was Mattia. What did I say?
Mateo.
No, it's Mattia.
Okay.
And anyway, so Odilio kept trying to break his rock on a stone, on his bumper and everything like that.
Cute.
And the reason why he wanted to break it because he wanted to show us the inside of the rock, and it was red. So that means
inside the rock is red.
Yeah, so that means it's iron.
Wow.
There's iron in this vineyard, and he showed us. I have a picture. Maybe Cully can put it on the screen later, but it shows the slight red in the middle, and he was like beaming like a proud father. And so the reason why I bring up that, so you were asking about iron.
Yes.
And the taste of blood. That's what this wine has.
Sanguine.
It's because of the iron inside the soil.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, the minerality it gives you.
Yeah.
Have that with a grilled lamb
Just
chop.
another layer, like another dimension for sure.
And you could see it's very savory again. And it's more refined than the other wines. It's got class. You can see it's got nobility to it because it has a big chunk of Nebbiolo here. And this is old-fashioned Alto Piemonte wine. When you have Cristiano or Gilberto's wines or Carlone, some of these more contemporary producers, it's a different take. It's not better or worse. You just got 2 different styles happening up there. But this is the only one I had. But this is a Tre Bicchieri winner right here. This is the one that won his Tre Bicchieri, and that's a huge honor. So this is the only bottle we have, and he wanted to share it.
Thank you. This is such an honor. I mean, it's another level and perspective for what Nebbiolo can be too. I mean, like Nebbiolo, sometimes Soms love Nebbiolo because it does have like lots of tannins and acidity and things like that, but it can be a little bit off-putting for some people who aren't used to those things. So having something like this that's so easy and delicious and enjoyable to actually drink right out the bottle, and having it, we didn't decant this wine, and it's still seamless. It's still like enjoyable. So that's unreal.
You remember the blend? What he blended it with?
I kind of remember it being 65 Nebbiolo, and I can't remember the other things. I think there's some Vespalina, and I think there's a little bit of Uvarata inside.
Yeah. Maybe you want to, for the audience, list the wines that they blend generally with these things, because it's nothing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's just unique to that area.
Wow.
Yeah, but this is one of the guys. This is Odilio. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a father-son project.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mattia and Odilio.
Just the 2 of them.
Just the 2 of them.
Do everything. Yeah.
I'll stop you breaking.
Yeah, this is more traditional style. This is where we came from. That's what I love about it. Whereas Cristiano and Bonaparte, they totally respect where we came from, but they also are trying to make it fit on the world-class stage today. And their wines are equally passionately made, et cetera, et cetera. So it was just a very, we went at the right time as they transition, so that we're able to see both old style like Franchino Amaro in Gattinara, very very old style. Odilio Antoniotti, Bramaterra. And at the same time be exposed to some of the new hot shots. So I think it was just a really exciting time.
Yeah, again, there's no large makers there. Oh, well, like, who just bought a vineyard when we were there?
Cantalupo and Conterno, Giacomo Conterno.
Conterno bought a
bought
vineyard.
Nervi.
Other than that, it's all families, small production type places. Well, there was one, Antoniolo was fairly good size. But other than that, just small family operations. Wines are terrific. And
Vallana was pretty interesting too. There's another winery that's based out of Bocan, Gattinara. Vallana was pretty interesting, more old style, I would say, with a little bit of new style being fused in right now. There's some really interesting wines there.
Yeah, we have a listener and also a really good friend, Rafa, who watches the podcast, and I feel like
He's from Acquarello Restaurant, San
he's from
Francisco.
Acquarello, San Francisco, so just all about heart of Italian. And I feel like he's really going to enjoy this episode because he loves talking about Piemonte in general. So,
Well, I'm hoping he'll, because I think sometimes Cristiano Garella and Gilberto Bonaberti tune in on our podcast. So I'm hoping that two of them can hook up with Rafa. Yeah, because it would be a night. I mean, they should get together.
Yeah. I mean, also to all of our viewers, Acquarello just reopened, so we're really excited.
And he was
for
just
them.
recognized by Wine Enthusiast magazine, wasn't
Yes,
he?
exactly.
So Rafa was noted one of the top 5 new Filipinos of.
He was recognized as one of the pioneering Filipino-American psalms.
That's it.
Yeah.
it was. Oh,
What, did I say something wrong?
no, we thought you were being your usual racist.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Not with Rafa. Rafa's too good of a guy, man.
No, but
Don't want to make any jokes about him.
congratulations, Rafa and Acquarello, for reopening.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I hope you tune in, and also that they can get together with these
And by the way,
winemakers.
Rafa, expect my cousin there as soon as he goes to San Francisco next. Okay.
I'll be there. I will be there. But the last thing I'll say about Alto Piemonte. Well, first of all, when Chuck calls me and says we're going to go to Alto Piemonte, I Googled the area he's talking about. He says, I don't see Alto Piemonte. He says, right there. I don't see Alto Piemonte. He says, well, it's
is
right here.
that?
It's not that. Now I find out only he knows. It's what he calls it. Alto Mountain Piemonte. But like
Upper Piemonte.
Upper Piemonte. It's like Corsica. You can go to these places, little old, traditionally grown vineyards and winemaking, makes these delicious wines that would go with a lot of food, but specifically goes with the food of the area. And that's what we just enjoyed our time there, with visiting the restaurants and drinking the wines. And the little place that we stayed at, it was this amazing place.
Oh, yeah, La Cappuccina.
La Cappuccina.
in Alto Piemonte.
It's an agriturismo.
Oh, okay.
And the chef owner,
Yeah.
he knows wines like crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you go to Alto Piemonte, that's the place to stay. It's called La Cappuccina, and it's maybe 5 different rooms, maybe 6 different rooms. It's very small, but it's in the middle of a field, and it's just totally that's the place to stay.
That's where you want to go. He cooks dinner every night.
Yeah.
Wow.
Michelin quality chef.
Yeah.
And
And and all he carries is wines from the area, and he's got all the guns. And he'll sit there and talk to you about all of them.
Yeah, very
That's a
knowledgeable.
steal.
Takes us into his breakfast room, which doubles as the wine room, and he's got every vintage of all these great wines just lined up. We just went and had the whole education there as soon as we arrived.
It's so weird that Cheryl chose this place to stay, and here we are hooking up with a guy that knows the area and the wines passionately and really well.
And all the vintages.
And
yeah.
then for us to hook up with Cristiano and Gilberto, those were the first 2 guys I hooked up with. And then it's just how this trip unfolded up there was
it's
pretty
the universe
insane.
again. It's like how the universe
Because
happens.
I don't know any
yeah.
importers that bring in the wines. That's why I can't get the wines here.
That's it happens a lot on our trips. This doesn't,
It's just crazy.
He's lucky that way.
It's a common theme.
We just got lucky.
Wow.
Anyway, this whole podcast, ladies and gentlemen, was really about one person's journey, maybe 1.5 person's journey through some different parts of the wine growing regions of the world, and just some of the insights that here's a man that converted from Lancer's Rosé and Strawberry Hill to Napa Valley Cabernet, to Bordeaux, Burgundy, Champagne.
Just
and
growing his world.
Yeah, to the world of wines, exploring, being adventuresome, having fun doing it.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what this is about. Just another example, another perspective of the pure enjoyment of wine.
In a certain way, it's a natural progression for a lot of people who drink wines. You buy the Safeway wines, and then you get a good Napa Cab one day, and you start liking that. Not a lot of people make the move to the dark side, to
The dark side.
So
But when you have a Chuck over here, the Sith Lord.
yeah, so I owe Chuck a great deal of thanks, I think.
No,
for
he
that.
drove, man.
He drove. Okay, so
But it's been wonderful.
It was a great trip. He's the perfect person to travel with. Cheryl and him, it's just perfect. You have a navigator. It's just perfect.
Well,
but I want to say, toast. You want to toast?
I want to cheers to travel buddies because post-COVID,
Travel
that's-
buddies. Let's get out there.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Let's go adventure.
I'm ready.
Michael, as always, thank you very much.
Sir.
It's always a pleasure. You know, we've seen so much together, experienced so much. Ariana, as always, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. These
To
are
all of
amazing
you,
bottles.
Thank you very much for tuning in, hearing our Talk Story session. Hope you had a good time. We hope to see you next week. Take care. Aloha.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.